We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate y'all for being here to the $1 Million Doing All Right show. Hey, man, you know, we just, hey, you know, life's good, y'all. I can't complain about nothing, Brian.
Nah, man.
You know, just me and Brian working together, put a smile on my face. I make him feel young again, man. You know how it go. Brian, I reached out to the audience, man, on the social medias. I went to the YouTube page, community page, and I say, y'all got any questions? And damn, Brian, they had a whole heap of questions. I couldn't get to all of them. It was a bunch of fantastic questions. Normally, I'll get 50, and I'll be like, all right, cool. 2 of these is good. But boy, it was some fantastic questions, and it was all about roster building and draft, Brian, bro. So that's what we're gonna do today.
I think I know this about working with you now since we started in this thing in August, that our audience is a pretty smart audience.
Yes, sir.
They're pretty smart. They're very football savvy. They understand things. They do have good questions. You go through those comments and stuff. I appreciate every one of them. I do think we have a very, very intelligent audience. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to getting through these questions. I really am.
Hey, man, because we show up and we study and we do the work, and all the dumb
people. Man.
All the dumb people leave, Brian Bros. That's why the audience is so smart, because all the stupid people get up out of here. You know what I mean? But hey, man, we're gonna get a little work for y'all today, man. Let's start off with this first one, and then when we're done with the questions, we'll break down the Bengals defense for like 5 minutes, because that ain't really much to talk about there. First one up is from our guy Mike Crum on the Twitter machine. He says, if you can nail a first round pick, Micah style All Pro, what position are you taking? Brian, let's narrow that down to like the real life possibilities, right? We're looking at maybe like an edge dude that could get to us if we lose some games, or one tech and a running back and a wide receiver. I think that's like a real life situation for us. Brian, if you can have an all pro at one tech, receiver, running back, or edge, which one of those would you take in this draft?
You know me, that I think the cleanest, what you want to do, Mike, is you want to try and limit your mistake, or the potential of a mistake. And so first round, you want to take, of course, the cleanest player on your board. You want to take the guy. Me personally, I kind of feel like always taking the best player. Just the way the draft starts off, Dallas has a lot of needs. And you mentioned positions, the running back, the defensive tackle. You mentioned those needs. I'm kind of like, okay, who is my highest rated player on the board? I mean, I'm going to stack this thing. Mm-hmm. We're down to, say, the 14th or 15th pick. And I'm going to stack that thing, and I'm not going to window dress my board. I'm not going to window dress my stack. I'm going to put them in the order I would take these guys. And I think it's just really, really important. And this is where you and I have talked about this, where Dallas has had success is taking the Zack Martins and taking the CD Lambs, and taking the Micah Parsons. And those were picks that were kind of in the middle of the board, and those were the picks that were the best player on their board. And the position that I kind of feel like that is the safest. Now, people are going to hate this. They're going to hate this when I say this. These running backs might be a safe group. Yeah. Now, the longevity of the running back is probably, 5. You're not going to get Emmitt Smith anymore. You're not going to get those guys. But if you're looking to take the best player that can make the biggest impact, I kind of feel like, though, that the guys, now, let's be honest. Do you think that we're going to have a choice of all those running backs at, say, 14?
No, sir.
Okay. You think we're going to lose Gente, right? You think that's going to happen?
Yes, I think we're going to lose him. I think. Okay. I think also. Okay. I think Will McClay is going to stand up and be like, the rest of this class is really good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe that he might be there, but the only running back that I would probably take there at that pick would be him.
Yeah.
And he might be the safest player on that board.
Sure.
His bust factor, it might be the lowest. Now, what wide receivers do you feel like do we have on the board?
I think
that's what is it, am I looking at Am I looking at McMillan?
No, sir. Burden is all we got. In my own personal opinion,
See, there you go. There you go.
Burden is all we got.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So now we have to compare. We have to compare Burden and we have to compare Hampton, you know, the running back from North Carolina,
Sure.
and we have to compare Johnson, the running back from Iowa. You know, me personally, I think I would take Burden over those two guys.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned defensive tackle. You know, are you thinking a 3 technique? Or are you thinking a 1 technique here? Which one are you thinking?
I'm thinking. So how Mike phrased it, right? How he phrased it is, if I can, make an all pro out of whoever I pick.
Right.
So if it's up to me, I'm taking the all pro 1 tech, Brian Bros, because I think if you have one of those guys, you can build a whole defense around that dude. It's hard to build around an all pro corner. I mean, you could do it, but you can run the ball on an all pro corner and the rest of the team trash, right? I think an all pro 1 tech, I think it just starts in the middle. If you get a dude that's a dude versus the run and a dude versus the pass, if Mason Graham ends up being a guy like that, Brian Brothers, I would personally pick the 1 tech.
Yeah, that Mason Graham under that scenario, when you start to talk about the 2 running backs that are there,
sure.
When you talk about Bird and the wide receiver from Missouri being there, when you talk about Mason Graham being potentially there, Mason Graham needs to be the pick right there.
Sure.
You know, if Mason Graham's not there, how committed are you to taking Kenneth Grant then at say 14? His running buddy there at Michigan, 6'3", 339.
I wouldn't want to window dress my board. And I like Grant, but I think I would be being phony to him because there's a couple of players that I would probably have ranked over him.
There you go. So you're not interested if Graham, the tackle from Michigan's off the board.
Yes, sir.
In my opinion, you know, when you start to talk about Harmon from Oregon and stuff like that, I don't know, man. I kind of liked Grant better than what I saw from Harmon. You know, because I felt like that Grant was a little bit more of up the field player. But if you're not interested, if you have other guys in mind, then now you're probably going to take Burden, the wide receiver from from Missouri. So is who you're probably going to take.
So Brian, when we had a conversation about these offensive linemen a couple of weeks ago, we were inferring that we were drafting like 6, 7, or 8. Now we're at 14. So when does offensive line join the party?
Okay, now this is the question I have for you. Do you feel like that all those offensive tackles are going to go in the top 10? Because, you know, I know talking to Jeff Kavanaugh about, you know, he absolutely loves Banks. I like Banks. Yeah. I don't love Banks. I have to get, and Banks is the tackle from Texas.
Sure.
I have my concerns about Will Campbell. Could Dallas say at 13 or 14 be the start of the run of, or maybe some of these offensive tackles coming off the board?
I think Banks at 14 is a little better than Banks in the top 10.
I agree.
I think so.
I agree.
And if I had to take Banks at 14 after all my other guys are gone, then I can feel good about that. Brian, let me ask you this. Yeah. Kelvin Banks, tackle from Texas.
I don't know if Kelvin Banks, and I could be way wrong about this. I don't feel all pro there.
No.
I don't feel all pro.
Brian, let me ask you this though.
I feel a really good player. I'm not sure that's all pro.
Voch says this. What if your all pro is the safety from Georgia? What if that's your all pro, but he a damn safety?
Yeah, and you know, like I say, you were talking. There are clear needs here. There are clear needs. I don't know. Like I say, I like that safety.
Yeah.
But can I get? I know for me personally, I like those. I like to say I think I have less concern over the safety.
Yeah.
Than I do these tackles, unless the name is Simmons. Yeah. You know, the tackle from Oregon now, or excuse me, from Ohio State. I My concern with him though is about his knee.
Yeah.
That's my concern. Hell of a football player, yeah. Like Dane was talking about, having the type of season until he got hurt in the Oregon game that he maybe been the first tackle off the board.
Yeah.
I am trying to minimize my potential for mistake. So I'm looking at these guys that probably the cleanest medically, the cleanest character-wise, guys that are captains, played 3-year starters. That's what I'm trying to kind of find. I mean, I don't want to be gambling on a player in the first round. I don't want to be gambling on, on Banks and maybe I keep saying this. I like Banks. I worry about Banks. I do have my concerns about him. I have my concerns about Will Campbell too, and I don't know if maybe the tackle run would start with the Cowboys at 14, but you talk about Starks. He's a versatile player.
Starks or Mike Green from Marshall, pass rusher.
I think I'm going to take Starks.
Okay.
Do you like Green better?
Safety's weird, man. Safety's almost like running back for me.
Tell you what, Detroit hit on that kid.
Detroit,
and I don't know. This kid's talented. I don't know if he's Brian Branch. But this kid has a knack for making plays. He's physical in run support. He's played in a ton of big games like Brian Branch had. Yeah. I've seen him trigger. I've seen him come downhill. I've seen him wrap up the ball carrier. I've seen him move well. I think he's got the speed to run down most opponents.
Yeah.
I think Florida, I said this in the Florida game, I think Florida took a little bit of advantage of him on a deep shot where he got caught out of position. But overall, though, man, this guy, now, let me tell you this. He has a history of a shoulder problem that you have to deal with. It's had to been fixed. And he was dealing with it a little bit this year. So the comparison to him, pro comparison, is like Kirby Joseph, who plays for the Lions.
Sure.
That kind of player. But, Kirby Joseph's a good player.
Cool player.
But I'll tell you what, if now all of a sudden now we throw the shoulder thing in there as a concern, here I'm talking about taking the cleanest guy.
Yeah.
That's not a clean player right there. If that's a shoulder, like, oh no, we'll be okay. But we've seen what happened with players with shoulders. We've seen it with Leighton Vander Esch.
Yeah.
Hell, we saw it with Tyron Smith. No guarantees there.
Long story short, we need to start losing some damn games, huh, bro?
I think that to me that your guy Burden might be the best player to take there if in fact if you have questions about every one of these guys but him.
Sure.
He's a hell of a player though. Gosh, he's a heck of a player.
Yeah.
Really is.
Let's get away from draft for 2 seconds, Brian Broad. It's just a little hypothetical right here. Does your good friend Mike Zimmer deserve an extension from Pippin 234? Appreciate you, Pippin.
Yeah. I love Mike, and it's really, Mike always deserves anything he can get, and I'm always going to talk very highly of Mike Zimmer. I'll be really, really interested to see what happens if Jerry and Mike McCarthy part ways. I don't know if Mike Zimmer will be the next head coach here. Possibilities. Mike has that kind of experience. I think there's been some, we talked to Eric Kendricks today on his show on 105.3 The Fan. And I asked Eric, I said, hey, it looks like that things are kind of improving for your defense. And I go, is this about, you have experience with Mike. Is everybody around you now kind of understanding what they're supposed to be doing? He says, yeah, we really are. He says, we're coming together. We understand the scheme. We're playing for each other. I mean, a lot of coach speak, but he was very adamant about people kind of picking up what Mike's doing. And the one thing that you and I have appreciated about Mike Zimmer is that when he's dealt a crummy hand, he discards and tries to get a better hand.
Yeah.
He will do things in order to try and make his situation a little bit better. does he deserve an extension? I'm always going to say Mike. Mike deserves everything because I love Mike.
Sure.
And I can't be at times, but I will say this. I've talked about Mike and them. They weren't very good to start the year.
Yeah.
They weren't good. They weren't good. And, Mike realized that. Man, I'm glad he did what he did to kind of turn this thing around. He's starting to get guys back. He'll have a big challenge on Monday night. But yeah, I wonder how it's going to play out for him if in fact that they change coaches.
Sure.
So that's not I'm sorry I didn't really answer the question, but
please.
It's hard for me to answer that question because I'll always say yes because I want Mike here.
Yeah.
But we also have to be realistic that there were some times where they weren't very good.
Sure.
They had some historically bad games, and Mike knows that. And that's why he tried to do some things differently.
Sure.
So we'll see how it plays out.
I have a lot of respect for what Mike's done with what he's given. I mean, me and you've been saying that week by week by week to where maybe your offensive play call or your head coach or whatnot, it's like it's taken. Like he's just now realizing to throw the ball to Turpin, or he's just now realized to try Rico Dowdle or something like that. Like we're seeing Mike Zimmer change something every single week, and it's working. He'll add something new, and it works. And Mike Zimmer's defense has always, like, that old match defense. It's always been a defense to where like it takes a while to figure out. Like Cincinnati, Dallas, Minnesota, everybody always says it about Mike's defense that it may start off rocky, but once you get it, like it's one of those defenses. And I just think that it was tough for him to be on a 1-year deal in general.
He's done an admirable job,
sure.
And I'm happy for him that as bad as it was, that he didn't quit on the job.
Sure,
he could have just said, "F it, we're not very good," and I'm not. No, he had pride. Those guys are playing hard for him. He's taken a lot of young guys and tried to kind of mold them in. Yeah. I'll tell you what, look at Jordan Lewis had one of the best seasons he's ever had as a Dallas Cowboy.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of it, I think, has to do with what they've been doing with Mike Zimmer and this crew.
And then, Brian, there's something else that really like bugs me about the whole conversation, because I thought about this a lot when I read the question. It's like, I've told you I don't want to, like, I'm done overrating our guys. Like, I don't want to overrate our dudes anymore. And I stopped and thought, like, man, am I overrating Mike Zimmer a little bit? And the one thing I thought about that he hasn't had this year is I would love to see Mike Zimmer play with an offense that's like going and putting points on the board and taking pressure off it, where
he can rush the passer every snap.
Dan Quinn was really good. When we were putting points on the board early.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll have those games where it's like, all right, it's 59-12. Let's put Cooper Rush in or whatever, because like we got ahead and then they started playing some real tough defense based on that. Mike Zimmer hasn't seen that. So that's the one thing that's kind of keeping me curious about seeing what he looks like with, Ben Johnson as the head coach play caller here, and Dak being healthy. But good question. Man, Brian, this whole Zack Martin thing, boy, it got people in a tizzy.
Yeah.
Brian Bros, and there's a faction of folk that are vouching for our guy Hoffman there. It says, Brian Voch, fan of the show, appreciate you, Steve and Stefan. Does Brock Hoffman prevent you from drafting a right guard, seeing as how Kratos is Zack Martin, might retire?
Mm-hmm.
So is Hoffman enough to fill those shoes? Go ahead, Brian.
No, he does not. Absolutely not. And I think there's things about Brock Hoffman that I really, really do appreciate. Appreciate the smarts, appreciate the toughness. He is not keeping me from, I think you can clearly upgrade at right guard. Yeah. I think right now they've done a really nice job of playing to Brock Hoffman's strengths, maybe playing a little bit to this offensive line strengths. But to me, if you tell me that I can, I could draft that Texas kid
and just put him at right guard,
and put him at right guard.
Yeah, I do it.
Well, if I can draft I can draft. We'll see how this draft plays out for some of these guards. We talked about the Arizona kid who that we can't pronounce his last name, but
Jonah from Zona.
Yeah. Jonah from Zona. Yeah. You don't, Brock Hoffman is not keeping me from drafting a guy and putting him in there. No, not at all.
Yeah, Brian Bryce, I agree. I think what happens sometimes, when changes happen and you win a football game, no matter what
Two
happens,
of them, yeah.
No matter what happens, all right, well, that's the thing that made us win. A
healthy body helped you win, though.
Sure.
A healthier body helps you win in those games.
Brock Hoffman has been better than a broken down Zack Martin, and then that's debatable. I don't know, even that's because Zack had a flash or two of Zack, but over the course of the game, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When you watch Hoffman on all of his plays, his 65, his 68 plays, man.
Mm-hmm.
I know the 1 or 2 plays where y'all can put the highlight tape up, and that's cool, man. And a lot of that comes off of BB being strong as hell. I get it. I get it, man. But if I have an opportunity to draft a guard that I really like, I'm gonna draft that guy, and he's gonna come in, and he's gonna compete with Nathan Thomas and whatever else happens with Bass.
Yeah, and he's likely gonna beat Brock Hoffman out like Cooper BB did at center.
Yep. We're not hating, man. That's just what Brock Hoffman is. You
asked a question. No, you asked a question,
Hoffman,
and that's
kind of got that. He's likable. He's Joe Looney. You remember Joe Looney was real likable, and people started vouching for Joe Looney, but the tape didn't add up. But he was like, I think Brock Hoffman's a very likable dude, and he does have some toughness to him. He does have feistiness to him, but
smarts.
But his physical traits don't. I think he's more of a center than a guard, actually. In my own personal opinion, I think he's more of a center. But that's just my own. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. Thank you so much, though, Stephen. I'm
good question.
Fantastic. Let me ask you this though, Brian. It's a good one in here. I'm looking for it right now. I'm gonna use this and kind of reframe the question or whatever and ask you about our other guy there. Okay, here we go. So the actual question was from Bierkeles. I'm just guessing there, or it could be Bierkeles. Maybe I'm over guessing there, but so far into the season, would you rather have the combination of Tyler Guyton and BB or Graham Barton? Now, I'm going to take that question, Brian, and just ask it to you like this. Appreciate you, Bierkeles. What's your evaluation on Tyler Guyton so far, and where you think we at with him?
I think Tyler Guyton's fine if he didn't have penalties.
Yeah,
I do. And you said it, grade 60, 65 plays. I think there's bad body position at times. I think you could see that in a lot of people in the National Football League. I think there's overextending. I think there's blocking on one leg. I don't think
wide
there's
hands, hugging,
wide
catching like that. Yeah.
If this kid did not have holding penalties, and I'm not saying that every holding penalty is his fault. He's had some bad ones. But, the one he got called on the other day where he rode the guy to the ground there, and just really kind of pushed the guy down, and the official called it. Yep. You can't call that, but they did. So I think that we would be very happy with Guyton if we just watched him play football and took away half the penalties. I think we're on Guyton. I think we're on him right now because of the penalties, because the play has not been terrible. There's been moments, but you could say that about a lot of offensive linemen in this league. You grade the 65. There's probably 3 or 4 plays that look awful, and so to me, I don't have a problem with Guyton. I have a problem with the penalties. Lining up in the backfield and stuff. I have a problem with those. So correct those, make those better. Then I think you've got a guy that you can kind of grow with. I'm not gonna throw dirt on that kid right now because I think there's some things that he does really, really well.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you another one, Brian Broadus, and I think this will help a lot of people. I don't think Tyler Guyton is going to live up to his Dallas Cowboy first round offensive lineman reputation standard. When the
plug and play.
When the Cowboys draft the offensive lineman in the first round, Tyler Smith, Zack Martin, Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, those guys typically hit. They hit loud and they hit immediately.
Right.
If we just strip all that away from Tyler Guyton and just go, this dude is a draft pick. If he was a 3rd round pick, Brian, let's take money away from it. Let's take draft status away from it. And we just look at Tyler Guyton. I think he is a developing young dude that's going to be a cool to serviceable to good athletic tackle for you one day.
Fair. Very fair. Very fair. Yeah.
That's what I think he's going to be, Brian. I don't know if he's ever going to be a Pro Bowl, all pro type of guy, but you can have a good offensive line and not have that.
If let me tell you this, if Tyler Guyton doesn't mature and grow up, then we're going to be talking about a different player.
Well, that I agree.
But he needs to, this year needs to be about, okay, this is what you got through. This is what you have to do. This is the kind of off season you have to go through. Yeah. Am I a little worried? Am I a little worried about who the next offensive line coach potentially could be? All those things? Sure. Because we saw what happened to the right tackle when they switched out the offensive line coach. Sure. But if Tyler Guyton does not mature on and off the field, then your assessment of him will be dead balls right.
Coach made us wrestle one day. My head coach in high school made us wrestle one day, just to build a little bit of toughness,
Toughness, yeah.
No pad, no pads and no helmet. Just go in there and try to, be a little tougher, man. Just try to build a little bit inside of you, Brian Brothers. And I think all that's necessary. And I think this segues really well into Xavier. What up, Zay? Into Xavier's question, he says, "What are your non-negotiable traits when evaluating offensive line? Games played, arm length, feet, and all that. Hey, look, I think all that's cool. I need toughness, and I need you to be strong. If you tough and strong, I can figure your feet out. I need you to be tough and strong. When you tough and strong and you coachable, tough, strong, coachable, I can work with everything else, Brian, bro.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. I've gotten into trouble here the last few years about the non-strong offensive tackle. I think you and I have had this discussion.
Yes, sir.
About the David Bakhtiaris, Nate Soldors,
yes, sir.
Those kinds of guys. I've missed more on the athletic, not strong offensive tackle. I've missed on those guys. Yeah. Because I agree with you. Give me a guy. Let me tell you what, if you're a guy that's constantly bending at the waist and you're constantly on the ground, and you're constantly you're in bad body position blocking people. Sure. I mean, I've seen some sloppy dudes. I don't mean sloppy like fat dudes. I've seen some sloppy technique guys play a long time in this league. I've seen a lot, man, but if you got to bend, for me, you've got to bend your knees. You got to play with some toughness. I totally agree with you about that. I used to really, 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 really believe about the strength. Yeah. And I don't know if I could do that anymore. But I don't need you getting run over, though, too.
That's the thing.
I don't need you getting run over. And I was watching the Raiders and that Hendrickson play for the Cincinnati Bengals, and he was running over tackles for the Raiders.
Sure was.
To get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
So, but I just wonder now, because trust me, I like what you say about the toughness and the strength and all that, but I have found myself being wrong about the non-strong guys, because I'm like you. I don't want a non-strong player.
Sure. I
just don't. But man, a lot of them are sure showing up and playing a long time in this league.
Yeah. That's fair, Brian. And some of these coaches can coach a not strong offensive lineman into their system or whatever. It's not necessarily my preference or whatever, but I'm gonna always like if I see a dude that's just strong, I'm gonna always rank him a little higher than the dude that's not strong. But
no question. And that's the thing that's bothered me all these years.
Sure.
That for every non-strong guy that I'm like, third, fourth round, fifth round, fourth round, third round, fourth round, every one of those guys have lined up and played. And I'm not saying I want a team of weak guys. I'm just not saying that.
Yeah.
But man, it kind of makes me pause every time. I'm like, God, this guy gets walked.
Brian, that's what was so surprising about our guy Josh Simmons, the tackle from Ohio
Yeah.
State, right? Like, yeah, he has the size and the feet and all that, but Kelvin Banks got feet, Will Campbell got feet. He's stronger than them. Like, you see him actually whooping people in the run game a little bit, Brian, bro. That's what put him over the edge for me. You know what I mean? So I think strong. Give me the strong dude, Brian, bro. Every time, man. Every time. This is a fantastic discussion. I appreciate everybody that reached out and gave us some questions. We got 2 more, Brian, bro. Let's see what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Our guy, Go Cowboys. Whatever 012987. He says, if the Cowboys take Mason Graham, the tackle from Michigan there, how will he fit with Mozzie, assuming Osa leaves in free agency? You push Mozzie Smith off a bridge if you got Mason Graham. Respectfully. Humbly, respectfully. Mozzie will be a really fun first-round pick backup if Mason Graham is drafted here. And honestly, I don't even want it to be like a big rotation. I want Mason Graham to play way more snaps than Mozzie. Mozzie will just be a guy that rotates in and, hey, y'all like this little project of putting Mozzie at 3 tech sometimes? Cool, put him at 3 tech sometimes. But if Mason Graham's here playing 1 tech for me,
what the Cowboys played the Ravens earlier in the year, right? And
yes, sir.
It was funny. Didn't the Ravens had two defensive tackles,
Travis Jones and
they were both 1 technique kind of dudes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, it was
Travis moves really well though.
Yeah, it was Travis Jones and
it's a long name.
Matabuke.
Matabuke. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes,
sir. And that, so that's, I was kind of think about, those guys that might not be like true 3s, but they're playing with like 2 big 1s.
Sure.
Is what they're doing. And they're let me tell you this. If Mozzie Smith can continually find ways to get off the ball the way he has the last couple of weeks, that guy could play 3 maybe.
This is what
he can maybe play. He can maybe play 3 because if he's going to be a penetrator, then maybe and I could say, hey Mozzie, outside shoulder, go. Outside shoulder, go. I'm not saying that he could be an all the time 3, but if you want to kind of rotate guys through, because Graham, we've seen Graham play 1, 3,
5,
seen him
7,
5. When we say all these numbers, it's where they line up in the gaps.
C gap, B gap, 0, head up over the center, and
right,
yeah, sure,
right. So all of a sudden, like, I'm not kicking Mozzie to the curb if I think like the next month of the season, all of a sudden it's like, well, hell, Mozzie's kind of getting it here, kind of playing up the field, kind of being active, kind of playing good with his hands, kind of getting rid of guys. Hey, you know what? I'll if I get a young guy that's got some power, big guy, I'll find spots for him there.
This the issue though, Brian. This is the issue.
Mm-hmm.
We always feel really good about Mozzie after he plays John Michael
Light
Smith.
Center. Oh,
John
no,
Michael
when
Smith.
you play, he's 2 of his best games this year have been against John Michael Smith, and he had a really good game against Tyler Biotish, and he had and Cam Jurgens from the Eagles had a good game. If guys struggle with power, here comes Mozzie Smith. So I'm not, like I said, Graham, I'm gonna find a spot for Graham. 1, 3, where I'm gonna find a spot for him.
Whatever you want.
Doesn't matter.
This is our last one, Brian. Bro, this is from our guy Matt Owen. One day I would love for you to meet him, Brian. He's one of the smartest guys that we have in our audience here, and he's also a
very
YouTuber.
nice. Thank you. I see a lot of his tweets and stuff like that. So, yeah, thank you for chiming in here, Matt.
He is a dude. Professor O, he says, what's a consensus first rounder, Michael Williams, that you just aren't buying the hype on so far, Brian Bros?
Yeah, I think it's the one is that you and I've had the discussion about has been Williams for sure.
Yeah.
That's something that, I kind of feel like that's
Campbell too, Brian, honestly.
Yeah. Campbell a little bit as well. I think when I look at all these, I'm just going down and looking through like all my, just looking at my notes on like all these edges and stuff like that, I was trying to think, okay, but Carter, no hype, Penn State, Mike Green, we talked about Marshall, love him.
Yeah.
Landon Jackson. I don't know if Landon's a first round player. I wouldn't have him. He's Arkansas. I don't have him as a first round player.
Third for me.
James Pierce, maybe. Pierce, Tennessee.
Pierce is better than Michael Williams to me. Yes, sir.
Okay. How about our Texas A&M kids?
They all just won. I'll be nice to these kids.
See, I was really expecting. I wasn't expecting 285 and 290. I wasn't.
Yeah. I would rank them Michael Williams, Scorden, and then I would go Stewart. I don't think Stewart's good at all.
Yeah. See, that's the problem. I think that with Williams, I am praying that I get more Georgia film because I really if I have to look at every single game of Williams, I am that I have, but he's the one guy that I'm not buying the hype. Right, and
they won't be long films, Brian, because they rotate them so much. So I mean, I don't know what to say about Michael Williams there, man. I don't know.
I'll tell you what. I mean, we talked about these tackles and stuff like that. I don't know if there's a lot of hype about Ursery from Minnesota. I don't know if people see him as a first round player. I sure don't. No, the big tackle from Minnesota. I don't know about that one. No, I mean, I would not buy the hype, but I think if the hype train is really for these defensive linemen. I think that's where the hype train is right now.
You know what, Brian? What it is that on these.
Wait, real quick. I'm sorry, Bosh. How about our Kentucky? How about our Kentucky one technique? How about
he's either
Walker?
He's either gonna get somebody fired or a raise, Brian.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's people who'll probably consider him in the first round. I don't think I could put him in the first round. Oh. I think there's a lot of uncertainty about him. My opinion, that way.
Yep. And that's all the questions that we have, man. Appreciate y'all very much for tapping in with us, and we'll do it again. We'll have questions from y'all. Brian, I don't want to waste your time too much, man. I mean, Trey Hendrickson is a really good player, but
yeah,
I mean, the rest of them, Brian. I mean, go find them. Go.
Yeah, this is where I think this game's going to come down to. Voch, I think that you're honestly going to have to be no Logan Wilson at linebacker for them is going to be a huge problem. He's one of their better run defenders.
Yeah, for sure.
Hendrickson, this team doesn't get a lot of pressures. They don't get a lot of sacks.
Yeah.
But when they do, it usually comes from Trey Hendrickson. He's going to play over. He's going to be over Chuma Edoga the majority of the time. I think he's played of 500 something snaps. I think he's played only 4 snaps as the left end. So we'll see how that goes. I think he's going to be over Chuma Edoga this whole game. You're going to have to figure out where this number 91 is. Yeah. This is a team that gives up a lot of runs after contact. You watch them and people will run the football on them. And they'll run it in a way where they do it by carries. They do it by volume. This team has played 13 games. 6 of the 13 games opponents have run the ball 30 or more times. Their record is 1-5 in those games. Yeah. The only game they won with a team running the ball more than 30 times was they beat the Giants. But they're 1-5. So if Dallas can go back, or Dallas can get to, and I think they probably want to do this to maybe limit the number of possessions that Joe Burrow has in this game. If this turns into a Rico Dowdle, and it turns into a game of him, maybe even some Ezekiel Elliott mixed in there too. Volume carries in this football game. This team gives up a lot of first down runs. Is what they're when the Dallas and Cincinnati are right there with each other when it comes to number of first downs allowed by running the football. Yeah. So let's see if Dallas will want to do that. They play a lot of single high safety. That means with Ferguson in the game, when Ferguson and Dak work together, that single high usually meant seam routes. Yeah. some seams. Let's see if, in fact, that they can do this. I kind of feel like that people have opponents have really attacked Cam Taylor-Britt. You watch him; he's played more cover snaps than any one of these defensive backs. He's the right corner. They've attacked him. They've attacked Mike Hilton, the nickel. Yep. And so, if you have to throw the football, there will be some opportunities. Trey Hendrickson, though, is the factor in this thing. Cannot leave him alone. Can't, they're going to, you try and find ways to get him kind of single block, but you're going to know he's going to be on your left side of the offensive formation. You have to account for that. Yeah. Okay. But if I'm Dallas, I'm going to try and make this a game plan like I had against the Steelers, the Commanders, and the Giants. I'm going to try and run this football, and I'm going to see how much time I could take off these clocks and not give Joe Burrow an opportunity to whip my ass with Chase and, T. Higgins and guys like that.
Yeah. That's a fantastic report, Brian Bros. I watched the Bengals defense, got a little sleepy. I felt like it would be easy to do some things if we were a 100% offense and, and the actual scheme was good. Dak was playing, but that's not the case. So now it comes down to, can Cooper Rush take advantage of those situations? But hey, man, we'll see.
Yep,
we'll see. Brian Bros, this was another fantastic show, sir. Another fantastic.
Thank
show,
you, sir.
Man.
Appreciate that. Thank you for and thanks to everybody out there for the questions. I enjoy doing this kind of stuff. I really do.
100%, man. Tomorrow is Friday, so we're gonna talk about some prospects, Brian, bro. Let me get my paper. Who we gonna be breaking down tomorrow? Who we breaking down? Let's see.
You got him? You got him.
I'm going to give you my report on Tyler Warren because
it's a tight end from Penn State.
I've been avoiding him because I really don't care for tight ends too much, Brian Bro. You know how that goes.
There's a couple of them in these drafts. One of them is from one of the tight ends is from Michigan.
Oh yeah. But we Loveland, Colston Loveland. But
Loveland,
we broke him down, Brian Bros. Let's see. Yeah. I'm scrolling down Dane Brugler's mock draft now, and that's how I kind of want to figure this thing out here. He has Shamar Stewart at 16th overall. Come on, Dane. Damn, Brian, we are really knocking these players out, man. What's going on, man? I'm way down. Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama. You want to watch him?
Okay, so I'm writing down right now. Tyler Booker.
Yep.
Is who I'm watching.
Guard from
Alabama. Got him. He's guard from Alabama.
Yep.
Okay, let's be a true guard here. This ought to be fun. Okay, got Tyler Booker.
Watched him. Do you have Iowa film on Caleb Johnson, the running back?
I watched him.
Okay. So we'll come together and we'll discuss Caleb Johnson for the family. And
by the way, can I tell you some? I don't know if I said this to you.
Please, Brian.
Do you know who that Omarion Hampton is?
Yes.
To me, did I tell you who he was?
To you?
You know what player he is to me? Have you seen the kid from North Carolina, the running back?
Yes, sir. I've watched him. So let's do him too. All right, but go ahead. Who is he?
But you know who he is? You know who he is to me?
No, sir.
It's DeMarco Murray.
All right, we'll talk about it. He tough, ain't he? Ain't he tough?
It might get caught from behind, kind of sneak through there, run a little upright, kind of bounce off people.
But he's an automatic. Catch me at 3 yards and I'm gonna get 2 more. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. One of my audience members said that he went to Fall Forward University, and I thought that was brilliant.
That is brilliant. We need to get T-shirts that say Fall Forward University.
Hell yeah!
But my man Hampton from North Carolina reminds me of DeMarco Murray when I watch him play.
So let's do that, Brian Bros. Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State. Tyler Booker, guard from Alabama. Caleb Johnson, running back from Iowa, and Omarion Hampton, running back from North Carolina, sir.
That's him.
Sounds good. We have a good friend that's watching us, Brian Bros, and you wanted to give them
I want to say hello to Nita. Yeah, Nita, I love you, buddy. Thank you so much for all the help. Voch and I can't wait to work with you one day, buddy, and it'll be fun. We'll have a lot of fun.
We're gonna make a lot of money, Nita. All right. Hey, but if y'all want some more work there, y'all follow me at VOCHLONBARD on social medias, and tap in with Brian BRY Broadus on his socials, and we'll be sure to answer any leftover questions that we may not have gotten to here. All right. Till next time. Crown.